Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name is Connor, and today we're going to be talking about a little clip that a friend showed me of Pete Buttigieg, and I'll try not to make any jokes about his last name or anything else about him because he actually seems like he seems like a talented fella. But he was commenting on the weird meme and a Republican return to normalcy. And I actually liked the clip while taking some issues with it. So one of the things that I actually really agreed with was that he was stating that a lot of people are going along with Trump just because they think it's a path to power, not because they're principally aligned with Trump. And I think that is one of the most true statements that I've heard recently from anybody analyzing politics, because Trump does violate Republican values. The 2022 tweet that I have brought up probably a dozen times now is a violation of Republican norms. Anytime that any MAGA supporter wants to show me outcome determinative voter fraud that was proved in court or out of court, again, I am happy to change my tune, but I haven't seen that yet. And still it's been 4 years and we've yet to see anything like that. Now, if you're willing to suspend the Constitution over a lie, then you're not a Republican. Trump isn't a fiscal conservative. He spent $8 trillion during his term, if I remember correctly. Even if I'm off, I could be off by a few trillion and the point would still stand. He did not care about the national debt at all, which is something that fiscal conservatives are supposed to care about. Trump isn't a social conservative. Don't just look at his personal life, but also look at the fact that one of the things that Republicans will often crow about is the fact that he was pro-gay marriage, that he's loose on abortion, that he is somewhat friendly to trans folk despite supporting bans on trans women in sports or under the age of 18 transition. So he's not a social conservative either. So if he's not a social conservative, if he's not a fiscal conservative, if he's not a Republican, then why is anybody going along with him? And the answer is because he's a right-wing populist. He takes a few talking points that right-wing people care about, like securing the border and not getting involved in foreign entanglements and not spending money on foreign entanglements. And then he just takes those things, blasts them up into the ether, and then expects people to be dragged along with his rhetoric. And unfortunately for us, that has kind of worked. One other thing that I actually forgot to mention was the fact that he's not a Burkean conservative, which is something that I consider myself, which is you look at the status quo, you analyze it as it is, you organize your social institutions for why they work, and then you allow society to progress in the ways that make sense, but then you hold back on the things that don't make sense. And that's what a Burkean conservative is supposed to do, is to act as the brakes on progressives and liberals who, let's face it, sometimes go too far. So he's not a Burkean conservative either, he's a regressive. So making America great again means only a couple of things, and it means locking down the border and becoming isolationist. And I already know that some of the MAGA people who will criticize me or criticize lefties are going to say, well, he's not really going to do that. His policy is often, is a lot more nuanced than that. But at the same time, when you look at the rhetoric or you look at the policy, it's all garbage, okay? He didn't achieve new diplomacy with North Korea. He took a photo opportunity with the dictator. He didn't achieve new diplomacy with Russia. He just simped for a dictator. He didn't achieve new diplomacy. Well, actually, Israel should be an interesting example, but saying that like, oh, well, if Trump was in charge, then 10-7 would have never happened. Well, to be honest, I'm pretty sure the reason why 10-7 happened was because Jared Kushner negotiated it so Israel and a bunch of Gulf states normalized relations and were putting investment into the West Bank. So Hamas knew that they had one more shot at relevance, and unfortunately 10-7 was their shot at relevance. So actually, indirectly, Trump and his policies likely cornered Hamas to the point that they lashed out the way that they did. Now, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done anyways. I'm just saying that like just pretending that putting Donald Trump on a pedestal and then throwing them up there is going to solve all the world's problems is cope. And I don't have normal, non-profane ways to describe it. Worshipping a man is the best way that I can say it without being vulgar, which I think is gross, weird, disgusting, stupid, and plays into celebrity status, least common denominator thinking. It also involves shredding our international trust. So our allies, they don't know where we're going because frankly, neither does Trump. He blows one direction in the morning and he blows another direction in the afternoon, and that is not something that we're looking for from a commander-in-chief. So the main sin, getting back to Pete Buttigieg, One of the things that he was saying is he's hoping that Trump gets defeated. That way we can have a semi-return to normalcy within the Republican Party where you're actually dealing with Burkean conservatives, fiscal conservatives, social conservatives, and Republicans. Because when it comes to a difference in ideology, those are the things that people can be working towards shared goals. And then we can fight over details of what those shared goals are and how we get there. Whereas when you have Trump presenting everything as if it's an existential threat to the United States of America, and frankly, personally to him, we just can't have normal conversations. And so hopefully Trump losing once is not enough to defeat him or the MAGA cult-ish. I know that there's non-cult MAGA, but let's face it, there's a healthy chunk of MAGA that is cultish, that if they get defeated twice, then the people who are cynically going along in order to obtain power, they will know that that game plan can't work. So, if we return to normal, are the neoconservatives any better? And that's an interesting question because the corporate Republicans, the neoconservative Republicans, like the Warhawks, the George W. Bushes, the Mitt Romneys, et cetera, were they any better? And I think the answer to that was no within the past couple of decades, but primarily because of the war on terror. We had 9/11, we had the invasion of Afghanistan, which I think was justified, but then you had Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld capitalize on that geopolitical event in order to invade Iraq, cost us trillions of dollars and thousands of lives, and melt down the Middle East. And so if you remove that, and if you have a more sane and intelligent and measured Republican neoconservative movement, can that work? And then also, fiscal conservatism is, I don't think it's that popular anymore. I think that there should always be a part of the Republican Party that caters to independence, doing it yourself, working hard, becoming, somebody who succeeds based off of your grit and determination and vision. That should always be a part of the Republican Party. But just saying like, yeah, you can work 160 hours a week at $7 an hour and you'll get where you need to go eventually. It's just not true. No working class person believes that. No middle class person who's sinking into the working class believes that either. And so can the Republican Party offer a compelling vision of what it is to be Republican, what it is to be socially conservative, what it is to be fiscal conservative, that is actually appealing to more than just rich people who want to hold on to their revenue? And I think that's another frustration with the Republican Party is I identify with a lot of Republican rhetoric. I identify with mild social conservatism. I identify with a secure border and strong national security and strong international relations. I agree with a American military that, while not anxious to get into conflict, is capable of holding world peace together. I believe in all of those things that Republicans talk about, but that's not what Republicans deliver. Republicans deliver tax cuts. And when you go over to the Democrat side, there's obviously massive cultural and policy issues where I can't be a Democrat either. And so I'm wondering how much of the Republican Party is not only feeling alienated from just Trump, but feeling alienated from the people who are supposed to replace Trump. And that crisis of identity is going to have to get sorted out in the next few years. And I think it's going to be forced, particularly if Trump is defeated. And I'm actually looking forward to that because I think it's a reckoning that has been waiting for a while. Now, a little meme that was touched on in the clip that I saw was the weird meme. And I just thought it was just real quick comment. It's okay to not be normal, all right? Trump is obviously a sex addict and not a social conservative and all that kind of stuff. He should probably just own the fact that that's the case. J.D. Vance is a former Marine who wears eyeliner, who wrote a book. That's a weird dude. And he likes dissident right-wing philosophy that he does incorporate into some of his ideas. That's okay. But when you kind of freak out about it, when you're really defensive about it, it kind of lets the other side know that they're striking a nerve. So I would actually caution Vance and Trump to not overreact to the weird meme, or else you're just letting Democrats know that you actually take those criticisms to heart. So those are my takes. I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a beautiful day. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.